Late when all hell really breaks loose. Just over a minute left in regulation. Away from the ball, Golden State's Larry Smith and New York's Ken Bannister square off and really go at it. Eventually, referee Paul Mihalik, as you can see, gets caught up in the middle of this. The fight was broken up. Both players were ejected. Certainly some heavy fines coming down after that. Meanwhile, the Knicks rallied to force OT. Patrick Ewing with the big three-point play early in OT. Finished on this play, John Long of the Pacers, Rick Carlisle of the Celtics get into a bit of a shoving match here. And you can see Jeff Kersey's trying to break him up there. He gets slapped in the face. So the two of them slapped each other around a little bit for a while. So they finally got separated. We've been seeing a lot of this lately. Both were ejected, by the way, with 7:11 left to play. The Celtics.
And AC Green going at it. Cummings will get hooked up with Green, and then Green and Cummings want a little more of each other, and Cummings says, how about this? In the face, Michael Cooper, the peacemaker, comes in, and Cummings gets a piece of Cooper. It's a good thing Jack Nicholson was in Atlantic City. I think he would have been plowed under by this exchange. They exchanged a couple of players. Cummings not only lost his shirt out of this melee, he has been suspended for a game, as has Cooper, for joining the physicality. John Sally will take out Elo on the baseline. He gets free, but they go inside to a wide-open Glenn Rice. He can't hit. Sally gets the board and gets Manning's retaliation. Put the hammer down. Sally rises and then gets up, and where is he? He's looking around. I'll get to you later, like maybe next time down the floor. Farrell with a board. He gets pounded by Long. He's in his face. Long will eventually try and strangle him. Then Bedlam. Elo's got Long down. Smith after him. Elo escaped harm there. Manning's out looking for more trouble. Meanwhile, on the other end of the floor, there's another brew of melee. Here it comes. Askins and Edwards. There's the punch. Edwards comes back. Earshot. You hear me? I want a piece of you. The police would eventually get involved. Order
for it. Now Henson gets knocked down. He takes a little umbrage with that. Officials step in. Looks like it get a little bit nasty. We need some size. We need some strength in here. Come on, where's my teammate? Here comes the enforcer right here. All right, you step over there. You get over there. Hey, you want to take me on? No, all right. Okay, let's settle down. Let's play some ball.
And the official call is a personal foul. First makes history. Dominique Wilkins into the paint. Jump shot. He's not going to get it this time either. He's had 2 cracks at it and has missed them both. Sean Kemp wants a piece of somebody. He was held back in stages there. Dominique trying to settle him down. Who was he going after, Rasmussen?
Well, you know, it's hard to tell because...
Well, Rasmussen's called for his 6th foul, so it must have been him he was chasing.
It didn't look like Sean Kemp was really that angry. There's the shot by Dominique. There's the battle inside. I'm not sure what happened. I mean, Blair just kind of reached in there. It looked like he bit his tongue, and that hurt.
But he takes off. First, Kevin Willis detains him. Derek McKee then stops him a little.
But is he really after someone there? You know, sometimes how you get hurt.
Now, as they untangle, the ball goes one way, the ball goes back, and now the bench is empty, and everybody tries to get involved in this thing. Golden State's coach George Karl and Chris Bullen, they now get involved with fans. Watch on the bottom of your screen. Local police trying to break this up, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to stop. Finally, the police get it under control, and they have to escort the coach off the floor. After the game, the Warriors weren't talking, but Utah had this to say.
Malone said, they ain't that good. I could get 4 guys off the street of Petersburg and beat this basketball team. And Bill Russell, I would think that Bill Fitch might have that up in the locker room somewhere to fire his Boston team out.
If he needs to do something like that, he's in real trouble. But I don't think that's quite so, that you get 4 guys off of Petersburg. Now, if he said San Francisco, maybe.
On the road, everything's out of control. You call room service and it doesn't come. Like Game 7 against Boston. In Boston, I didn't eat before the game. I called room service and it never showed up. Now, I didn't know if Red Auerbach had called or what.
Have 15, 20,000 people against you. The team that you're playing against is emotionally on a high because they're playing home, and we're coming in from foreign territories.
Southerner learns basketball is a contact sport.
Well, I think most of the players from the South plays maybe a little more physical, a little more aggressive game.
I think in my neighborhood, it was a physical thing. I think only the strong survive.
On the court, Southern hospitality is pure give and take. Give no ground. Take everything in sight.
I think rebounding is hard work. I think it's a combination of desire, mental desire, and physical desire. And to do either of those things, you have to be able to work hard.
Perhaps it's no small coincidence that many of the league's best rebounders come from this region of the country. Power players from the South share an aggressive style and fearlessly fight their way through a crowd. Even those athletes whose game is more geared to speed also share that Southern zest to play hard-nosed basketball.
When you're out there playing in your earlier years, you got to be strong, because a lot of guys, if you can outplay them, they're going to try to knock your block off.
Before one of the more tense and raucous Eastern finals in recent memory, Chicago emerged.
They threw us to the floor about the first 2 or 3 times they got the opportunity, stood up over and said, we're going to smash you.
And we're going to have to turn it up. We're going to have to bang some people, throw them on the floor, do what we got to do.
Czar inbounds play. Watch, please, number 22 in white, Danny Ainge. Yo, Danny, what were you doing with the basketball? What, were you really aiming it down court, or was Mario the guy you wanted hit? Mario always says, you better not have been throwing at me. Danny says, I wasn't. I was trying to throw it down court. Have we got your attention yet, man? Come on, man. That's what you get for partying on Saturday night, right? The In Your Face Award, Dwayne Farrell and Grant Long. Hey, the NBA has gotten there a little bit, right? In your face, indeed. And then the brawl of the year that everyone around the country will talk about for a long time between the Bulls and the Knicks. Derek Harper, Joe English started it, but everybody wanted to finish it.
Talking all game long, and that taunting stuff sometimes sets people off.
There was the mother of all fights Friday night right in front of Big Daddy, David Stern. Let's take a look at that. The Knicks' Derek Harper and Bulls' Joe English jawed each other and then come to blows. That started a free-for-all that spilled off the court and into the stands right in front of the obviously concerned NBA commissioner. Harper was suspended for 2 games and fined $15,000. English got 1 game and $10,000, while 15 other players were fined $2,500 each for leaving the bench. And the loss of Harper, I think, Mike, could really hurt the Knicks for 2 games, couldn't it?
It certainly could. You look at a Bulls team that won that game and now have a chance to win a second game in Chicago Stadium, and that could really turn the series to favoring the Bulls rather than the Knicks.
Well, the rest of the game itself was quite a scrap.
Well, the game is starting to get sloppy.
There's been a lot of manhood testing going on in this league in this week.
Boy, I tell you, the game is starting to get sloppy, and in the last 2 or 3 minutes, you've seen a bunch of pushing, guys getting frustrated, and what they're getting frustrated is not at each other. Everyone is struggling on the court right now, and that's where it starts. I mean, this is not enough.
Oh, that was mild compared to Chris Dudley and Zoe Morning last night.
Oh, my.
Well, they literally went nose to nose.
Yeah, they did, but up until the very end, it was just nose to nose, and that's fine.
Double technical called on Divac and Miller, and a personal foul called on Anthony Miller. Here's Divac, spin move. Oh, boy.
Oh, my.
Oh, beauty.
He faked him so bad.
And Corbin and Mason exchanging words with each other.
I think they were talking about what they're going to do after the game.
Yeah, right.
Here you go.
Corbin and Mason.
Neither one of those guys are going to back down. But neither one of those guys are going to do anything either. They're going to talk. Just like everyone in the NBA.
Well, there are a few.
There's a few guys.
There are a few.
Danny Ainge was one of them.
With 6:43 left in the first, the Hawks the lead.
Das würde bedeuten, wenn es zu einem Finale...
In the NBA, rivalry is bitterly epitomized by the Detroit Pistons and Chicago Bulls. Painful defeats. Perhaps that explains the fervor the Bulls displayed last year.
These two teams get together. They've been swinging at one another lately. How deep does this bad blood go?
Well, there's no question, Jim. This is an intense rivalry. To say that there's hatred, that's a strong word. But these clubs genuinely love to beat each other, and it will always be that way. I think the problem we had a month ago will not be seen again. This has been a great rivalry without violence, except for that one occasion and the one in the exhibition game 2 years ago. We won't have any problems tonight, other than it'll be a very fiercely competitive game, a typical Philadelphia-Boston game. Not all that pretty. When the night's over, it may be an ugly game, but a fascinating one and a very pulsating one.
You've been in this business a long time. You've told me that this game is sold out faster than anything you've ever tried to hustle before.
Well, as far as regular season games, Jim, we can never remember a sellout like this.
The 76ers and the Boston Celtics. It will remain a rivalry, I think, for a long time to come, especially if the teams remain as good as they have been over the past few years. And really, except for brief periods in their history, both teams have been excellent. And so the rivalry has flourished, beginning with 1965, when Havlicek stole the ball. Well, the names and faces change, but the intensity remains the same.
And comes across the midcourt line. And then keep an eye on those two men, because this is where it starts. Right there's the first blow. Seesting moving over to cut him off. Sampson objects and stays with him. Now watch Ralph. He will turn on Seesting, and he will deliver the first blow right there. Seesting was already turning his head. Now Dennis Johnson steps in, and there's the right to Seesting, and Johnson comes and catches the left hand. Now Bill Walton comes in low and tackles Sampson down to the ground, and then of course both benches empty, and finally they are able to subdue them. And Dave,
It's Chicago Stadium, where the Bulls and the Pistons are set to resume a rivalry that has grown into one of the most physical and intense in the NBA. These two teams have met in the Eastern Conference Finals the last 2 years, and that's the only place they can meet in this year's playoffs. But today, they have a chance to send one more message before those playoffs. Gail Gardner has the story.
Let's get ready to rumble!
We know the minute we step on the floor that somewhere along the line in the course of the game there's going to be an altercation or some incident that sparks something on the floor.
Now look at the triple team as Sally and Rodman collapsed on Jordan, and Jordan is still down. Michael is on the floor.
A couple of elbows here and a couple of punches there. You know, you never know what might happen.
They'll try to power it up. He threw the foul. Will Perdue fouled him, and Purdue's trying to go after him.
It may not be the Hatfields and McCoys, but it is the NBA's version of a blood feud. For 3 straight seasons, the Detroit Pistons have eliminated the Chicago Bulls from the playoffs and have not done it courteously. The opening act starred Rick Mahorn, who was the centerpiece for many of the physical altercations. Mahorn may be gone, but his ghost lives on.
If I say Detroit Pistons to you, what reaction do you have?
Aggressive contest, long night, physical battle.
The cheap shot artist, you know, with Lambier, you know, when you say Detroit, that's what comes to my mind.
Not very many good thoughts, that's for sure.
The rivalry has had an interesting effect on both teams. The Pistons, who in part bullied their way to the top, have now taken the high road and are downplaying the physical nature of their rivalry. They claim they win with talent, not intimidation.
I just think that we just have a mental edge over the Chicago Bulls because they're not a really deep team that can go into their bench and the bench can come out and produce the way we can.
I don't concern myself with what they think or what they say. The only thing that I'm concerned about is our basketball team, and the only thing I think about is our basketball team.
As for the Bulls, they're tired of being physically abused and have no qualms about retaliating.
I hate to say it on television, but if I can give a guy a cheap shot in there, I'm going to do it, you know, if it's going to give the Chicago Bulls the advantage.
But this rivalry is more than just team versus team, the Bad Boys versus the Raging Bulls. It's player versus player, once Mahorn and Jordan, then Isaiah and Cartwright, and now Lambier and Pippen, who have been involved in acrimonious playoff encounters the last 2 seasons.
Scotty, how much of a personal thing is there going on between you and Bill Lambier?
We don't like each other. And, you know, I see him out on the court, and I know every opportunity that he get at me that he's going to take a cheap shot. And I will let him know I'll do the same to him.
And this rivalry isn't going away. Just recently, Dennis Rodman and Bill Cartwright got into another altercation, and John Paxson suffered a concussion when he got tangled up with Isaiah Thomas. And as we head towards the playoffs, there is certainly a good chance the Pistons and Bulls will hook up again. For the Bulls in particular, their personal demons are very much alive.
From our perspective is until we show we can beat them, you know, it won't be over for us.
For a fight that occurred on Friday night. Now, late yesterday, the NBA suspended Cleveland's Brad Daugherty and Detroit's Bill Lambier for the following incident. With 9:42 left in the third period, Daugherty and Lambier get into a shoving match under the Cleveland basket. Both players exchanged blows. They collapsed to the floor. Players from both teams piled on top, and both centers were ejected following.
Gilliam inside. Dawkins just yanks Gross down to the ground and jumps back up. And Ramsey's out on Dawkins, and Richie Powers is pushing Ramsey away. And now, Daryl Dawkins and Maurice Lucas. Somebody do something. It's Dawkins and Lucas. Dawkins and Lucas. Jack Ramsey pushing Dawkins. And now they pull Lucas back. Ramsey is out there. They've got Lucas controlled. Now there's a fan out there. Jack McKinney and a fan. Assistant coach Jack McKinney. Zinkoff trying to restore order here in Philadelphia. They've got to get the fans off. That's the first thing they've got to do, is get the fans off the floor.
Daryl Dawkins actually got Doug Collins in the eye. As you see him being attended, and he is bleeding. He's probably going to need some stitches, punched by his own man.
I see the blood on the towel, no doubt about it, that Domenico has. And now something's going on over there with some fans. Security police pushing him back. It's a fan over there in a red jersey. That is not a Portland player pushed away. We got to see how this started. Let's get back and see how it started.
All right, here we go right now. We're back on the court live again as things are still breaking out here, and they're trying to get order restored on the court. I hate to see this type of thing happen, and the fans have just got to stay in the stands where they belong. There's no business going out in the court. It's bad enough trying to control things. Trying to control things with the players, let alone having the fans out there.
Here comes Dougie Collins.
Doctor's doing the smartest thing. He's doing the smartest thing of anybody, Brett. He's sitting down and getting out of the way and resting. Shows you how cool he can be under pressure.
Gene Shue out. Now they mix to come back.
Dawkins has been thrown out of the game, Brent.
Now let's go back and take a look. Here's a replay.
Here we go. We're coming down on the play right now. Now watch Dawkins and Gross right here. Comes, he kind of muscles him out. The shot's going to go up right now by Gilliam. They're going for the rebound. Dawkins up for it. Gross goes for it. They get the ball. He comes right now and is there. He's fighting for the ball, trying to take it away. Flips Gross to the floor. It was nothing intentional, just good hustle on Dawkins' part. Go to play. We'll see Dawkins throw Gross down on the floor. People will step in to try and get in their way. They're a little upset. Now watch Dawkins. Now watch what Dawkins does. Somebody blocks the screen. Here he comes, right there. He throws the punch, and you saw Collins fall out of your picture. Darryl Dawkins losing his composure out there and hurting his own man as he squares off with Maurice Lucas. And boy, it's tough to try and get in their way. But fortunately, the players are wise enough to prevail and grab the men and separate them.
Da sagt Patrick Ewing, ja, muss ich...
Well, you really look at the Lakers being extremely physical with Scottie Pippen. There must be a problem somewhere between Scottie and Phil because their love affair has ended when they changed uniforms. And I really believe that here's Fox bumping Pippen. I really believe that Scottie Pippen felt that Phil Jackson did not give enough credit for their great...
5 days later, someone forgot to yell timber when Derek Coleman fell on Steve Kerr, breaking the guard's clavicle, and a little of Phil Jackson's spirit, who began to wonder if the championship karma was fading.
Pour les Nards, ça c'était le 18 avril dernier, c'est-à-dire il y a quelques jours. Hein.
C'est comme ça que Horace Grant s'est blessé au dos et surtout au poignet après une chute vite.
Chaos-Tage in Dallas. Body Slam von Golden State Warrior Mark Davis gegen Dallas Center Sean Bradley. Für diese Wrestling-Einlage sehen beide die rote Karte und dürfen unter die Dusche. Auch Steve Nash bekommt die Überhärte der Golden State Warriors zu spüren. Vontego Cummings rastet total aus und darf auch in die Kabine gehen. Das Strafmaß wird erst in dieser Woche verkündet. Alles weitere aus der stärksten Basketballliga der Welt und auch von den anderen Sportarten.
Heute geht es um Muskeln. Jeder Mensch hat ungefähr die gleiche Anzahl von Muskeln. Jeder Mensch hat ungefähr die gleiche Anzahl an Muskelgruppen. Aber sie können in ihrer Größe variieren. Verstanden? Nach seinem Rookie-Jahr stählte Malone nicht nur seinen Körper, sein
The game was still up for grabs with seconds left as Trent Tucker made a...
Did you hear the horn blow? Or have you gone totally insane?
This team has endured some controversies this year. And, so has that brought this team a little closer? It sort of gets to be like us against them.
I think controversies probably brought us a little bit closer because guys look at each other and we consider each other friends.
While the Nuggets are a great story, on the other hand, we have the sideshow here in Salt Lake City of Jazz owner Larry Miller, who will not be attending today's game after an altercation with Denver fans during Game 5, a game in which he also called for the benching of his star Karl Malone. The friction between Malone and Miller continues to make headlines here.
When things are going great, everybody's on the bandwagon, but when they go tough, everybody sort of jump off, and you hear all kind of stuff. And in this business, that's part of it. And that's the kind of stuff that run players away from the game. It's not the game itself. It's all the games that are played within that run players away. Because you just say to yourself, you know, I've given it all I could give for an organization or a team, and then I get this or whatever, so the hell with it, basically, you know.
Karl Malone told us yesterday that Miller's actions have pushed him towards a decision which he will announce after the season is through. And Karl Malone implied that he will indeed demand a trade from the Utah Jazz when the season's over.
From the beginning, he's always had that confident air. He's always played with emotion, and he's never been bashful.
Chuck Person can talk some trash to Larry Bird now. He scored the last 16 points.
In order for me to be successful, I think you have to have an edge. And my edge is to put in the fear of me inside of my opponent.
Thing was working for the Knicks as Scottie Pippen ignored their tactics and scored a game-high 29.
Both clubs going at each other. Michael Jordan and Xavier McDaniel having words.
The Bulls are the world champion. We're supposed to just lay down and just let them do whatever they want to us. Hey, this is a game. This is a man's game.
Hit hard
understand come Sunday, it's going to be an all-out war.
We knew New York would take us to our limit. So it was a mental test as well as a physical test to take on the baddest and the worst and probably the best challenge that we would have in the playoffs.
And back come the Bulls. Pippen, oh, he is ripped by Starks. This has become a war. Here's Ewing. Yes.
It's always personal. It's always personal.
Do I hate him? Oh, yeah.
Philadelphia 76ers leading the Chicago Bulls by 22. Hello again, I'm Craig Sager. Yesterday we announced that John Nash had resigned as general manager of the 76ers, although the official statement was to be delayed until after the playoffs. Nash obviously had differences with owner Harold Katz, and today several writers in Philadelphia accused Katz of interfering with Nash's responsibilities.
Every time that I read that I'm an interfering owner or that I make decisions, is so irritating that you have no idea. And I can't believe that you guys who have never run any business in your life would not have an understanding that when somebody invests money, they have the right to make a damn decision. But you people who have never invested one freaking penny can't understand that. And it's just an amazing fact to me that you think a man will have a business worth $100 million and not be involved. You guys are freaking idiots.
Well, if the in-house hassling is a distraction to the team, it certainly hasn't shown so far tonight. The players, the fans came out with the intensity of a Game 7 thump and bump. Rick Mahorn and Charles Barkley. Barkley everywhere in this game so far. First, he has the tough foul on Scottie Pippen. But he has had an excellent first half.
4:35 left. Scottie Pippen missed the dunk and a foul. Ron Anderson has checked into the game for Philadelphia.
That's Charles come in from the left side. You see how he got pushed down. Let's talk about Anderson. And I tell you, Charles didn't even make a play. He knew he wasn't going to get the ball. I guarantee you, he meant to take a hard, tough foul.
The situation had become intolerable, past the boiling point, the culmination of weeks of anger and frustration. So Latrell Sprewell decided to take matters into his own hands. Those matters just happened to be the neck of his head coach, P.J. Carlesimo. Sprewell's attack brought about a one-year suspension from the league office, the voiding of his $32 million contract with the Warriors, along with a mixture of sympathy and disdain.
There were words exchanged back and forth, and asked Spree to leave practice, and he didn't, and the words kind of escalated to some physical contact, and then later on in practice, 15 or 20 minutes later, Spree returned and there was some more physical contact.
The 1-13 Warriors have suspended Latrell Sprewell, their leading scorer, for 10 games without pay.
Spree, what are you doing? You lost your mind. Spree.
I hate to see these kind of incidents, whether Sprewell's right or wrong or PJ or whatever happened, but I don't think it's good for NBA basketball.
First of all, I wanted to apologize to my fans and my family and friends of mine who saw this, and it's definitely not something that I condone, but it did happen. It's a mistake I made.
You feel like you want to apologize to PJ?
See, I don't want you to ask me that.
The Warriors organization has decided that it will not trade Latrell Sprewell. We are terminating his contract, or we did terminate his contract early this evening.
Punishment swift and severe from the NBA, which today suspended Sprewell for a year without pay.
We definitely disagree with it. We're going to fight it. We don't feel that either the Warriors or the NBA have the right to suspend him.
I want to start by apologizing publicly to P.J. Carlesimo and to Gary St. Jean. I know that this conduct is not appropriate in society or in professional sports. And I totally accept the responsibility for what I've done.
The pun was unintentional, but in the aftermath of the Sprewell suspension, the Warriors placed a gag order on all employees, including the team's announcers. Sprewell filed a grievance against both the Warriors and the league office.
Violence, hostility,